Okay, I'm delighted today to be joined by Chris Lewis. Chris is a telecoms industry analyst, a strategic advisor, public speaker, accessibility specialist, and founder of the Great Telco Debate. Hi, Chris. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Nice to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
I just wanted to start by understanding a little bit about how you got to become an expert in your key topics. Could you just tell us a bit about your background, please?
It's really interesting. I studied linguistics, computing and languages, and then got into this industry by doing research in foreign languages. So in the early PC and networking market in the 80s. And then gradually as I've moved, I've added different topics as I've moved around the industry. And of course, ironically, now back at artificial intelligence, which is where I started my degree with all those years ago. So actually tied in many of the different aspects, but always just added new subjects and a real thirst for knowledge.
Fantastic. Within telecoms, what would you say the topic areas that you're most passionate about?
I'm really passionate about the industry understanding its role in the digital future. And that may sound a bit trite, but what we've done as an industry, we've had so many elements, and I've done research and managed teams in most of those elements of the industry, fixed and mobile, the software, the hardware, all the services and so on. But the industry's role in the broader digital economy is really important, rather than being a self-contained industry in the past. So I'm probably most interested and most passionate about how all of the pieces fit together to provide the industry, which then we'll use as consumers and businesses and society.
Fantastic. Wow. Are there any sort of subtopics within that you'd say that really excite you?
Well, the role, especially of mobile devices, and bear in mind that being blind, I'm very interested in how everybody gets access to services. So that mobile device has suddenly become absolutely vital to all of us in getting access to services. So the applications on there, how accessible they are, how reachable to everybody. So yeah, but every part of it, it all fits together. And in fact, interestingly, as an industry, we're trying to make it almost invisible. So we expect the broadband to work, we expect the Wi-Fi to work. So it's actually embedding that into everything that we do, which is really of most interest.
Fantastic. Okay, well, what would you say in terms of the influencers within those topics? Is there anyone that you follow on social media that you respect their opinion and you really look to for inspiration? Any influencers that influence you?
Well, the role of the analyst is such that you're continually absorbing points of view from all around the compass. I'm always very conscious of not knowing everything. You can't know everything in this industry. You've got to listen to people. So the specialists that come in, whether it's from the CTOs and the telcos, whether it's the people leading the charge on the vendor side, increasingly nowadays people coming from the hyperscalers. This is an IT part of the industry which is now very, very close and relevant to the telecom industry. And then you've got the device guys. So there are analysts, there are specialists, there are product people from companies who I'm continually tracking, and it's trying to absorb all of that to try and keep that, keep my perspective up to date is the biggest challenge. But also what's exciting, because as I say to my kids, I'm a perpetual student. I'm continually learning. You should never think you know everything about this industry, because you can't know everything.
No, that's true. Yeah, brilliant. Outside of those key topics, are there any other key topics which you're interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always very keen to tie back to supply and demand, and therefore economics becomes a really key issue. So any of the economists and any of the major investment houses or the management consultancies, you continually see things from them. And of course, journalists, you see journalists in the mainstream papers now very interested in broadband. It was a topic when I started 30 plus years ago that would never make the front page of anything. And yet now you've got politicians making claims about being the fastest growing 5G market, or getting Wi-Fi to everybody, or broadband for all. Influences really from around every aspect of daily life. So investment, economists, politicians, you've just got to keep a track on all of those.
Okay, so just moving on then, is there anything you would say describes your offline influence?
Absolutely. So the in-person thing has always been massively important, and offline in the sense of behind closed doors. A lot of what I do as an analyst never appears in public. It's done behind closed doors. It's done with clients in confidence, because it's commenting on what they're doing or what the industry's doing and how it might shape their business going forward. Offline is vital. I mean, good old email. Email is the absolute workhorse of what I do, interacting with most of the clients and most of the companies in the industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you speak at events?
Oh, endlessly. Yeah, well, not obviously virtually at the moment, but over the years, all over the world.
Just moving on then. So if a brand was wanting to work with you, what activities do you think you'd be most interested in working with a brand on?
Well, all aspects is the honest answer, and that's the way I work with all my clients. Sometimes it's behind closed doors, sometimes it's with their sales teams, sometimes it's with the senior management and product management people. So all of the above. I write short pieces sometimes for clients, which does appear in social media.
Great.
I do longer confidential reports, which sometimes stay confidential to the client, sometimes get published as white papers. So, the permutations, all of it builds on the knowledge that I have around the industry, and then through the analyst role and doing additional research, whether it's sometimes surveys, but most often, one-to-one interviews with senior industry people, that information gets put together in whatever way a client wants it to be done. And of course, these days, we have so many more options in terms of webinars, roundtables, perhaps not the in-person conferences that we've done in the past, but I'm sure they'll come back.
Oh, that's great to know. Okay, so in terms of getting ahead of a story, so this question is about how you find your information. So what would you say is the best source of information for getting ahead of a story?
I like the way you shape it as being a story. See, I don't see it as a story, because I'm continually absorbing new information to fit in and fit around my thinking around the subject. And sources come from everywhere. Daily news feeds, obviously discussions with specific telcos and vendors, interaction with fellow analysts. There is a great camaraderie between the analyst community. We get together in person at many events around the world, and we discuss what we think is going on, as well as what we're hearing from the vendor side and the telco side. And the industry analyst is looking to try and understand the whole context within the topic within which they work. So that's why I'm continually topping up my knowledge, so I can then work with different companies coming from different angles.
That makes sense. And you just mentioned working with companies. So do you mind telling us some of the brands that you've worked with?
Well, on the vendor side, Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei, Amdocs. And then on the telco side, most of the major telcos around the world. We're obviously based here in the UK, a lot with BT and Vodafone, but also with AT&T in the States, Telstra in Australia, SoftBank in Japan, Singtel in Singapore. So that's the beauty of the job, is it's a global position.
So in terms of activities you would be keen to take part in, so we've touched on some of those activities already, but would there be any sort of non-paid organic activities that you would be keen to take part in if it raised your profile or delivered value to your audience?
It's a big question, isn't it? We have this discussion in the analyst community quite a lot. What do you do for free and what do you do for pay? Because there's obviously massive value in the knowledge that we have. And since I also founded the Great Telco Debate, I'm very conscious of the way the conference and events business works. So I do join in events on an unpaid basis to keep the profile up rather than raise the profile. I think so. I think we're at a level where the people in the report have got that level of profile. So you keep your profile up by joining in events like Mobile World Congress, like the TM Forum, like the other events such as Great Telco Debate, and also sometimes happy to do the odd interaction on an unpaid basis, on the understanding that it should lead to some paid work at some point in the future.
Fantastic. Well, I've just got a couple more questions. So this is about your passions outside of work. So what do you like doing when you're not working?
I love sport, and despite losing my sight, I'm still very active. Ride tandem, play blind cricket, play golf, and passions. Yeah, I mean, apart from that, a lot of family life. I got a guide dog for the first time 18 months ago, so he keeps me busy as well as guiding me around the place.
Fantastic.
Passionate, love music. What's not to like about the changes in the digital world, where you can get access to all the music and audiobooks, another massive change from an accessibility point of view. So I'm an avid reader, and I consume media as much as I can. So at least I can join in most of the media with people.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that kind of leads me to the end of the interview. There's just one last question. So if I was a brand and I wanted to reach out to you because I wanted to work with you, what would be the best way for me to contact you?
Luckily, I do have access to most social media. I don't use everything. But actually, do you know what? Telephony, good old-fashioned telephony, email actually are the most accessible.
Fantastic. Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, Chris. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Thanks ever so much. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.